Hello and welcome to On a Mission, the show where we share inspiring conversations with phenomenal women who are creating success and prosperity in their lives with purpose and passion. I'm Pauline Rohdich, a success mindset coach and clinical hypnotherapist, and I'm on a personal mission to remind you that you are a beautiful soul and you have so much potential. And my intention for this show is to give you the nudge to answer your own calling and to rise up and take on your life's mission. So great. Listen, welcome everybody. And this is the next newest episode of On a Mission. And this is the show where we are speaking to amazing, phenomenal female entrepreneurs who are doing their thing, who are using their gifts and talents, who had a bit of a journey to find out where they're going in life, and who are really and truly making a difference in the world in their own unique way and owning their gifts and talents, more importantly. And today, there's no exception to this lady that I want to introduce you to, and that is the amazing Siobhan McKenna. So you're so welcome, Siobhan. How are you doing?
Thank you. I'm great. Thanks for having me, Pauline.
Well, look, I'm just going to give a little brief intro of you, but I really want you to expand on it. So I'd just like to say first and foremost that Siobhan and I met in 2008 in the National Concert Hall in Dublin, where we'd both been attending a talk with Deepak Chopra. And I learned that Siobhan had already trained with Deepak Chopra as a meditation teacher. And I was only on the beginning of my journey with moving into that arena. And so I actually then chose to work, at least to train with him as a yoga and meditation teacher. But we really clicked, both Siobhan and I. I was fascinated with some of the things that she told me. We had a few things in common. And at that time, she was writing a book. And I remember you telling me all about that, Siobhan, at the time. Right. So you are an author of 3 books, one of which you got nominated for an Irish Book Award. And that was in 2011. You can expand on that in a second. You wrote 2 other fiction books, and now you're in the process of writing nonfiction. So you have a wonderful background. And, you know, maybe we'll just start where you currently are, and then we can go backwards and figure out the whole journey. And, you know, a few questions I'd like to ask you for the benefit of our audience that are listening, and perhaps, you know, keeping on the edge of, you know, going out there on their own and doing something that they would love to do. And they have this burning desire inside to do something and maybe don't know where to get started. So, Siobhan, you are now currently the creator and designer of these beautiful scarves that have so much more to them than just being something that you wear. There's a bit of a story attached to each one, and how you've really brought together your background in the business of clothing, lingerie at the early stages of your life, and also then as an author and meditation teacher. And I would just love you to share how you've managed to bring this together, where this dream came from, and, you know, when you started it. So share with everybody what you're doing.
Okay. Well, thanks for that, Pauline. God, I sound great. It's like...
but can I just say, I don't think people really, it's not about, you know, being conceited or anything, but it's really acknowledging. I don't think us women acknowledge ourselves enough for, you know, the courage that it takes sometimes to pivot and change direction and change careers and follow your heart. It's not easy, you know.
No, it's not. And if I'm 100% honest as well, often I was pushed to the point where I didn't really have a choice but to make a change. You know, I would love to say that it was always, you know, a leap of faith and that it was very well thought out. Often obstacles were put in my way to send me on a different path. One thing though that I will say, I suppose, is I do have a great trust in general that I'm supposed to be wherever I'm supposed to be. I try to trust the process. So I suppose that does lead me to places that I mightn't have necessarily thought of. Like when I left the clothing trade back, it was there was the crash in 2008. We had closed just before that because we were in the manufacturing side of things, and it completely died in Ireland. Tech had taken over. It was the Celtic Tiger. Nobody wanted to know about Indigenous clothing trade in a little street in East Wall, you know. And I never in a million years dreamed of going back to it. I just thought I never want to go near clothes again, or the industry. But it's funny actually, because since then, things have had a lot of twists and turns, and it was as if I had to write the books, train in meditation and healing, and that brought me back to my roots, because it was a family business, the clothing trade. And it was, you know, I was brought in there after school. I remember I'd sit on the table where the lady who made the bows that went in the front of the night dresses. And I, at the age of 6, would be considered child labor there, used to make the little bows to put on the front of the night dresses. And they were really, really good memories. So I used to love the smell of the machines, of the fabric, of the thread. And my uncle had a talcum powder factory across the laneway, so you could smell the talcum powder. It was real old Dublin. It was real old Dublin.
Oh, I love that, being a Dub myself, I have to say. Can I just ask you though, I mean, just with the family trade and being 6 and being brought into the factory and everything, was it something, I know you said you enjoyed it, but you know, as you got older, was it something that you felt that, oh, I want to do this, you know, I'd love to be part of this?
Not at all. So my sister just loved it, absolutely loved it. I didn't, like yourself. I wanted to be a guard. I went for the initial interview.
I didn't know that. I actually did not know that bit. Now, funny enough.
Yeah, I always said all along I wanted to be a guard. I wanted to be a guard, and that was my focus. And I ended up not being a guard, but marrying a guard instead. And I went for the initial interviews. I would have been a terrible guard. It wouldn't have been for me at all. But so I was kind of forced into the family trade. And if I'm, again, being 100% honest, it was made very easy for me to go into it, you know. And in the beginning, I did enjoy it. My parents were very loving parents, but their way of training me, which looking back was great, was I had to go in and learn the trade from the ground up. So I started off in the stockroom. I had to learn how to sew. I had to pack the things. There was no going into an office, and I think that's why, at, you know, late teens, 20 or whatever, and then I did my education, my third level education in addition to that. So I went to the Grafton Academy and learned pattern making, and I loved all that side of things. But where I really came into my own in the business was when I was watching The Designer. And I just I fell in love with that part of it immediately. And I remember staying back when everybody had left and kind of trying to train myself to make patterns, and then I could do it. It was funny, and it was from then that I was very, very lucky, because I went to the Grafton Academy, but I also had the in-house training, and I worked alongside Bridget. We're still in touch on Facebook and that, so she might see this. And she was great. She showed me how to do things, and I loved it.
Amazing. But you obviously were always creative, though. I mean, you just don't certainly, you know.
No, my best subjects would have been art. Like, I would have got an A in honours art in school, and anytime I won anything, it was always for writing. So that side of me, and I suppose I did want to pursue that acting earlier on as well, because my cousin is the actress Siobhan McKenna, who is part of this non-fiction book that I'm writing. But you know, that would have been very much, you can't make a career in the arts, and you can't do this and you can't do that. So going into the family business really was a tug of the left, you know, practicality, but I felt kind of like my wings were being clipped as well, you know.
you didn't really get a chance at that stage to really express your own sort of creativity.
No, and it was years later when I had kind of decided, oh, I like the design side of things. And anybody who is in a family business will know that you don't spend your time on one thing. You know, you have to do the sales, you have to, at Christmas time, it's crazy busy, and it's all hands on deck. And you don't really get away from it, especially when, now I left home relatively young by today's terms. I would have been about 21, 22. But, you know, the dinner table is all about factory, you know, and about work and about problems. So there's no definite.
There's no separation, and can be very, very boring and frustrating all at once.
Exactly. And you know, I'm quite conscious of it here now because my daughter works in social media for quite a big firm, and she works very hard. And as soon as she gets off the computer, of course, the first thing I want to do is like, how do I do this? You know, and she's already
social media. Yeah. Well, I mean, fantastic to have her there that she can help, because you need social media, and certainly to share with the world what you are creating. I have to, I'm completely drawn to the scarf you have hanging on your chair.
Oh, okay. So this is
beautiful. And just
a
little
bit is based on, I don't know, can you see it? So that's called that's Gráinne Whale. Now that's obviously not her, that's my image of her. So everything that I do is, the colors were chosen for their power. So she's wearing a purple dress to, it's a symbolism of her royalty. She wouldn't bow to Queen Elizabeth because she felt she was the Irish queen, and she wore a gown. So that symbolizes that. And then the oranges and reds, that's all about our, you know, our root, our power, tapping into our inner power and keeping us grounded as well. And, you know, people absolutely love it. And
I love it because it has all the colors that I absolutely adore. I mean, our colors, you know, all about creativity. Very nice.
Exactly.
So your meditation, though, but your training with Deepak Chopra has very much come in. That's where I can see the meditation and the awareness of chakras and energy centers.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as well through meditation, it really releases your creativity and that sense of trust, you know. And I mean, I think, you know, the fact you definitely, if you have a vision, and I think you definitely need to be very clear on your goals. And one thing that I did, even though I have a long business background, I was out of business for 10 years, you know, writing books and doing meditation and doing little bits here and there. And I got this aha moment about the scarves, literally when I live in Hope, and I was on the cliffs and my uncle was cocooning, and he'd come for a walk with me and I'd have the phone. He used to love to see the cliffs. And I just thought, can you imagine wrapping people up in this lovely energy that every time you feel it, that you feel this kind of support, you know? And that's when I kind of thought, I'll make a scarf, and people can literally wrap themselves in the energy. So for example, the Grace O'Malley scarf, she was a groundbreaking woman, you know, and you know, it's been a great gift for people to give to other women who they want to kind of, you know, remember your own inner power.
The trailblazers in the world.
Pardon?
Trailblazers of the world, I should really say. No, listen, I think it's absolutely amazing. So you kind of got this idea, you're out walking, you're really bringing your uncle who's at home cocooning on this walk with you and showing him what was possible and how that day looked. I just think it's an amazing story, but it's like, it just shows that you were obviously very present and using your intuition to kind of hear that, feel into it, and then actually do something about it. Because let's face it, a lot of people get ideas, but they don't run with them. What was the difference? What was that thing that made you actually take the action on that? Because while it's a lovely idea,
Mm-hmm.
most ideas are stillborn, they don't get the light of day. What caused you to take it to the next level?
So I had been, before the lockdown, I knew that there was something new coming. I had 10 years of writing, and writing was quite different to what I thought it would be, to be honest with you, Pauline. It's extremely solitary. Now, of course, you're right, so it's solitary, but for me, I would very much get into the characters, and but it's not so much the writing, although it is very difficult to get out of that world, especially with fiction, because you really, live it. But it's a whole other side of things with the publishing and editors, and then doing your own self promo. So it's not like you just write a book and somebody takes it away, that you're dealing with.
Believe it or not, I'm in that process as we speak myself, but I will tell you something. I'm always in awe of a fiction writer, because I am certainly not writing fiction. I'm writing a non-fiction memoir, teachable kind of a thing. And obviously I have the editor in place and the publisher and all that kind of stuff. But I think anybody that writes fiction, I mean, you have to have an amazing imagination, I believe. I mean, I think I have a good imagination for sort of visualizing things, but I think it takes a special type of person to write those fiction books and get the plot going. And I can understand that being incredibly solitary, but I also know how difficult it is at times to sit down and just get the words on the page.
Yeah, it is. You have to be very disciplined. And it's easier once you have a contract, because then you're under contract and you have to deliver. So, but then you have to deliver something that doesn't have the artistic freedom, because you have to deliver a particular type of
they're kind of
formula.
Well, listen, I think that's probably a first world kind of a problem. If anybody was going to put me into a contract situation, I would be absolutely thrilled, because I think it's scary putting something out there, isn't it? Sometimes, especially now that you're going into that non-fiction arena, no doubt you'll be giving a lot of your personal life experiences as I am. And the closer I'm getting to this becoming a reality, the more nervous you can be. How do you feel about that?
I'm okay about it, because I feel what I'm writing is very authentic. So I think if it's authentic, then you've done your best.
Yes.
And the only thing that that I'm inclined to stay clear of is anything that's too political or But I think if you're talking about your own feelings and your own experience, nobody can. If they don't like you, they don't like you. And that's one thing that I've learned. You can't get everyone to like you.
Not at all. And listen, I learned that. I mean, God knows. I mean, I think we all would like to be liked, but I mean, we know that's not realistic. I mean,
well, I think that's one thing that came from the pandemic. I know I wrote a small article, actually, I must put it up, where one mask replaced another. And I just really lost my nice face during the pandemic, where it was like, I'm just going to say it as it is. And if you don't like it, then I don't care.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I think, look, we were all tested. There isn't a person that was tested. But look, is it fair to say that the pandemic really gave birth to your beautiful scarf business?
It did, 100%, because I knew something was shifting. I felt, I don't know if it's the word discontented, but I was building the stress management business, and I was doing some corporate work, and I really believe, I know I changed my life around by meditation and being more centered and that learning to trust. But something just didn't feel quite right. And I'm a big believer in, and this is where I think when you are in tune with yourself, that there's a difference between lack of confidence and listening to your gut. So sometimes we make decisions because we lack confidence around them. It's like, oh, am I doing the right thing? And your decisions are based on fear. Whereas I think when you have a good anchor, which is what I think that this has given me. Yes, you make decisions that might feel a little bit wobbly, but you're making them from a soul-centered or gut-centered place. Does that make sense?
Oh, big time. And it's actually what I teach myself. I'm all about soul's goals. It's all about coming, and equally, Siobhan, meditation changed my life, and I've made no secret of that. I've said it anywhere I've had an opportunity to say it. It absolutely is the most important thing for me. It's very grounding. I've said that meditation makes you more intelligent. It certainly makes you more creative, more inspired. It really is, because like that, I love the fact that you mentioned the word anchor. It anchors you into your truth, I believe, and it incites that inner trust.
Yeah.
That's actually what my book is all about. It's actually called Just Trust, and it's all about that, believe it or not.
Very good.
It's actually based on that journey, and also from before meditation, the insights that we've had as children. So a bit like yourself, going back to your own journey, you had little insights growing up. Obviously, as you say, you had the business, the family business there, and it sparked something within you. So you like the design area. So you had these little signpostings, and obviously you had a gap from it when you chose to leave, and then you came back to it. And now you're making this your own. You have your mark on it. So again, I'd love you to talk. I think your scarves are amazing. Like, do you have several designs? Are there a limited number of designs, or how are you doing it? And what is actually inspiring you to create those designs apart from nature?
Okay, so it's been a different process for me to what I'm used to. As I said, like I left 10 years ago. We were big exporters, so we had big multinational clients, and we had factories, in the Far East working for us and things like that. So this time I wanted to approach it completely differently. So one thing I did, Pauline, that I didn't do with the books, I kind of fell into the books that was very much, I want to be an author, and I really didn't look at it as a career. So the difference this time around is this is my career now. So that helps me say no when I need to, so that I can't just go for walks on the cliff willy-nilly, and have coffees down on the pier. So I have a very much structure in my day, but I have really utilized the local enterprise office. So I did a Start Your Own Business course that I found invaluable. Because I'm quite creative, I'm inclined to jump around the place a lot. And, I've endless ideas. But when you've loads of ideas, sometimes it's very hard to actually get anything done because you're popping around the place a lot.
Yeah, focus is required, isn't it?
Yeah. So I really decided, okay, so I did a business plan thanks to the Start Your Own Business course. And I've got good at saying no to things that aren't in line with where I want to go. But also, it's about, and I do at least one training Zoom a week with something to do with my local enterprise office. So you're building up a network as well.
Yes.
And one thing, I did a marketing training last week, and I always said when I started this, I wanted to be slow. I wanted to be sustainable. I wanted it to be really a quality product. I don't want to go into huge production. I want a story behind each design. It has to last for years. It's made in Lake Como in Italy by artisan producers. So this is I want it to be special. I don't want it to be something that gets thrown into the recycling bin next year or whatever.
Yeah.
So, but the thing now is, I think I have kind of harnessed the creativity with a kind of a practical side. And I think that's the key. Now I'm only starting. And, it's years since I was in a business. things have changed a lot. This whole social media thing, I find,
Yeah, it's very overwhelming at times. Absolutely.
It is very overwhelming. It's like, how am I supposed to get everything done and think about posts? And I've got very good at not knowing where my phone is. And my phone goes on to do not disturb, 9 p.m. and it does not ring again, doesn't turn on again until 8 a.m. And even the relief in my head of knowing I'm not contactable. Now I know that's
a really, really good habit, I have to say. It's a really good habit. And I only lately have got much more disciplined with myself with switching off at nighttime, and really recognizing that we need balance big time, you know, trying to do it all. I mean, obviously there's plenty of help out there, and I think it's important that we do enlist some help, because what I like to say is when you're hiring somebody, you're helping somebody else to fulfill their dharma and their life purpose. I always sort of see it that way. And because that really is important to me, and especially if you want to grow your business, which I've no doubt you will. Are you thinking, or have you been exporting yet? I mean, you're only 6 months in business, just under.
I literally started about 2 weeks before Christmas. It was chaotic. And so I'm really kind of finding my feet. I'm starting with a small designer boutique in New York on the 1st of June. But really my model is direct to consumer, because I kind of started, and this is another thing that's very important about having your business plan, is that you can keep referring back to it.
Yeah.
And so what happens is people saying, are you not in Avoca? Have you been to Brown Thomas? Have you,
Yes.
And I was like, oh, maybe I should try that. But, those buyers are up to here, and you have to have a certain social media presence before they'll even look at you. And I've been in those meetings, I know how the industry works. And I was like, no, I'll have to try and get in there. And then I thought, hang on a second. You were always direct to consumer. That was always your plan. So why are you letting, and people are being good. I have to say, I've found people extremely supportive. But I think it's a matter of listening to the advice, but staying true to yourself. And this is where writing things down, having the plan, especially if you are creative, that you probably need that more than ever. And I 100% agree with you about employing people where, I could spend, I don't know how long on, Photoshop.
Yes.
And it's like, oh my God. Whereas I work with a graphic designer, and we do live, and he's there, we screen share. And I was like, no, but I don't need to spend 4 years in college to learn how to use.
No, I mean, I think that's the mistake a lot of people make, start when they're starting their business first, when they start out, is, well, first and foremost, sometimes it's forced upon us with lack of budget. And we do try to do all things, but eventually, if we stay focused on the bigger picture, which is getting your product to market, earning the money, and then paying people to help you to expand faster and scale your business faster, because of, you're staying in your own zone of genius and let somebody else do it.
Sure.
Yeah. I'm all for that. So listen, what I'd love to ask you, Siobhan, like, who would be the most influential person in your life?
Oh gosh, that would have to be 100% my daughters. So I have 2 daughters, and I really, we're a real female family. I was brought up by a very strong female. My dad died when I was still quite young. My mother was always the ruler of the roost, and she was the main businesswoman as well. Okay. So where my father used to be kind of in the factory, packing orders off. Mum was the one going in to see the bank manager, and one of the greatest lessons she gave me, I did my Leaving Cert very young. I had literally, it's my birthday coming up in a couple of weeks. So I think I turned 17 during my leaving cert. So, you know, I was working and all like at 17, and I remember at about 18, Mum bringing me in to see the bank manager, and he screaming at her about the overdraft, reducing her to tears. And it was a brilliant lesson, you know, to get. And I was so angry that he reduced my powerhouse mother to tears, and it was very male dominated, but she was the strong one in our house. I loved my dad, he was the softie, but I very lucky in that I had a very strong role model of a mother, and I've tried to do the same. I've no sons for my two daughters, and I just see how they've come through things, and I love them being here. They're back home now with the pandemic.
It's fantastic.
Yeah,
it's wonderful. And I mean, and hats off to your mom for keeping that business going, which sounds like it was a huge business. You know what you were doing. What would have been the most difficult decision that you've made along this journey to get to where you are, Siobhan?
Ooh, I think it's I definitely haven't taken the easy path, Pauline. You know, when Mum was still alive, I took a job with the civil service, and I was really terrible. I was absolutely awful.
That's okay. A creative probably in that role probably wouldn't work.
And I remember I was thinking, and my mum was so happy, you know, because I had a paycheck coming in every week, and I had a pension, and I left it, and I said, I'm so sorry, Mum, I'm going to write a book instead. And she was like, ah. So I think that's from a career point of view. If I'm being 100% honest, I suppose the most difficult decision was when I realized my marriage wasn't going to work out. And I called time on it, and I was really ostracized by a lot of people, and gossiped about, and it took it was very personal, very hard on a personal level, because I was still very young. I got married very young, had my daughter, and then suddenly I was a single mother out on my own. So I think that personally would be the most difficult decision. And it wasn't like there was anything wrong with it, but I just knew this is not going to work out, and it's never going.
Great courage, to be honest with you, you know.
Yeah. And you know, it probably made me who I am now, because I was such a young woman at the time. And yeah, I think that was the hardest thing, because socially it was the 90s, it was extremely unacceptable. And you know,
I hear you. I married a man who was married previously and only 3 months separated when I met him, so I know all about it, and that too was in the 90s. So, you know, thank God, and thank you, God, that things have changed.
Yes.
Speaking of God, Siobhan, when do you feel a connection to God, your higher self, your soul, the universe, whatever you're happy to call it? When do you
I'm not allergic to the word God at all, because I remember Deepak Chopra would always talk about, you are God. God is everywhere. He's impossible to avoid. And I was like, I am God. I don't get that, God. But what I do, Pauline, and I'm very much into an attitude of gratitude. I believe like breathes like. I do give thanks every morning, and I say thank you, God, all the time. Now, I don't see God as, you know, with a staff and a long white beard or anything like that, but I definitely believe in a higher force. But I think we're very much part of that. It's within us, it's without us, it's all around us. You can't look at the moment I have little robins nesting in my shed, and they kind of pop up to me all the time. And I kind of look, you can't look in wonder. And I know we're kind of getting to the end of things now, but to watch the robins and to see that nature. And I was walking the dogs this morning, and this lad who I know just locally, and I hadn't seen him in ages, and I was like, "Hi Dave, hi Siobhan," and he said, "Have you seen the whales?"
Wow.
I said, "No, I haven't seen the whales." And it was the most stunning morning, and he had the binoculars, and I just thought, how could you not believe in something
I know.
more with all of this, you know, be it a little robin or a whale, you know?
Fantastic. I know. I mean, it brings tears to my eyes often out in nature and just watching nature and seeing whales, and thanks be to God. And they're in Howth at the moment. Happy days. They're obviously going south to warmer waters, I guess. I don't know. I could be wrong, of course. I don't know.
I don't know. That was the first.
I don't know their migration schedule, but I know they go one way to have their babies and they go back another way to get pregnant all over again, I think. But anyhow, it's amazing. So you feel it when you're close to nature, whether, as you say, whether it's the robin or the whale. I love it. That's really good. I have just a nice light-hearted question for you. What would your favorite quote be and why?
Okay, gosh. The one, so I have a lot of quotes I like, but the one that I would keep in the back of my head, because I need to remind myself about this a lot, is the definition of madness is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Because that is something that I have done quite regularly. So if something is constantly being blocked, or if it's not going how I feel it should be going, I try to remember to get out of my own way. I introduce that pattern interrupt of getting off the hamster wheel, because I know from experience that you have an idea of how things should be. Mm-hmm. And when it doesn't fall into that category, you keep going, you know, banging your head against the wall. Whereas I think sometimes if you just take a step back, take the deep breath, and maybe take a break from it. You know, if I'm here at my desk and I can't figure something out, I might go and clean the windows or something, you know, just do something that's monotonous away from it.
Yes.
And it's the one quote that has really, okay, are you really fighting against things here? Now, there's a huge difference between having a goal and having a dream and going towards that. But I don't believe there's just a direct path. Quite often you have to go off on little detours to get to that. And
100%, I completely agree with you. I love it. It's about kind of fighting. A lot of people try to fight the existing reality instead of just doing something completely new and, you know, create the new model. Create the new model. I love it. So look, final question. What excites Siobhan McKenna about the future?
Oh gosh. I love, at my age, you know, 50 something.
Come on.
That I'm starting a new business.
Yeah, I know.
And I love the idea that I don't have to retire, and that I can start a business at any stage in my life. And I fully intend to work as long as I can work. Because I enjoy working. I think it keeps my brain alive. I love being out there, and I love creating. And I think, you know, was it Forrest Gump? Get busy living or get busy dying, or was that in Shawshank Redemption? You know,
I know the quote. I think it could be Shawshank Redemption, actually.
Yeah, I think it was. But
here's your sister, because I'll tell you one thing: retirement is not and has never been in my vocabulary, and that is so exciting. You know, and I think that's a great thing to finish on, Siobhan, to anybody that's going to be watching and listening, and amazing women out there considering, you know, doing what's in their heart. You know, I really want to encourage you, Siobhan. I'm sure you want to encourage them as well.
Absolutely. You know, the one thing And one thing I would say, Pauline, is, nobody knows what's going to be a success either, So I remember when, when I was up for the book award, it was like, oh my God, but there was actually a good few years of uncertainty before that, and then you get to that success and then it's like, well, where are you now? What have you done now? So I think that the more centered you are on what you want to be and not having excuses, because cash flow is always going to be a problem, for a startup business, for example, so if you have your plan in place, then you're not going to be getting as stressed. So for example, this month I have to pay for goods up front, and somebody was trying to get me to do something else. I was like, it's not in the cash flow this month.
Yes.
And that's it, so I certainly, if your drive is strong enough, then you will find a way around it, really.
A woman after my own heart. Where there's a will, there's a way. And I think
absolutely.
That burning desire and knowing who you are and using your skills and being of service. I think that ticks a lot of boxes, doesn't it? To bring you the inner joy that, that we're all searching for, really. It's inside us, but it's just to really ramp it up.
Yeah.
Siobhan, it's a real pleasure. I'm definitely having one of your scarves. I need to look at your collection. So obviously we'll put the details with this show, and you can listen to it on the podcast, and of course share it, please, and share the love, and check out Siobhan on her website, siobhanmckenna.ie. And I just want to appeal to any woman out there who would like to be a guest on the show to share their story of their own journey to entrepreneurship. Just please get in touch. We'll have you on as soon as we possibly can. So today we'll end this call by saying, take good care of yourselves and keep the dream alive that's inside of you, and go after what you want, because we're all here to serve in some way. We're all unique. We all have gifts and talents. So my part of my mission is to help you really come out of hiding and show the world who you really are. So thank you so much for listening today. Take care. Thank you for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to this show so that you will be notified when the next episode is released. And remember, keep believing you're amazing and you have so much to give. Now is your time.